Hello and welcome back to the Beyond Enough podcast. I'm so excited to be back with you this week with another absolutely incredible woman. I'm going to get her to introduce herself in just a second. It is so good to have you here. As you know, this is the podcast where we speak about going beyond enough and really bring you those stories of women who are going beyond the stories that were written for them and choosing more for themselves and for their life in whatever way that looks for them. And so perfect for this podcast and this conversation. It's Ebony. Welcome.
Thank you, my love. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here and that we made this happen as well. Because you, and I'm sure you're going to tell us about it today, have got a lot going on this year. But first of all, please just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, it's such a broad question, and I'm always like, where do I start? So I'm Ebony Allard, aka, or also known as Ebony Alchemy. And one of the reasons I get called Ebony Alchemy is no matter what is going on, I have the ability to show you another perspective. Like there's always multiple perspectives, and we can shift whatever is going on for us into something else. And I've always been really, really good at turning shit into gold or spinning straw into gold. It's just a thing that I've always really been able to do. And in order to do that, we need to honor the natural cycles. We need to honor death and rebirth. We need to see ourselves as this full and complete range. And when I was younger, and for a lot of my life, my complete and whole range was felt to me as though it were not accepted and not okay. And how that looked in my life was that I experienced a sensation of not belonging, of feeling misunderstood or like a misfit. And like I was very contrary, like I had all of these different parts, which made no sense because you can't be that and that. And the world had kind of showed me you can be beautiful or you can be clever. You can be, there were so many different things where it's like you can be scientific or you can be artistic. You can be, and I was like, okay, trying to figure out where I belonged and how could show up in the world when that wasn't really my experience, but I couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. And it turns out that I'm too much and simultaneously not enough. And I'm sure there's so many people listening who can relate to that too much and not enough. And what's really going on in that is that we feel like if we share our whole self, that it won't be met because people will be intimidated or you don't fit in a box or you can't be labeled. And so whilst I have shown up as a coach, as an artist, as a mentor, as a facilitator, as a writer, like so many different things, I am a polymath. I am a manifesting generator. I work with the esoteric and psycho spiritual modalities to help people really understand who they are. I often say if you're not absolutely in love with yourself, you don't know yourself well enough yet. And it's really all of that. I want to help people have the most incredible life experience. We are souls incarnated in human form to have a physical and emotional experience and to share that and express it and express ourselves for the greatest and highest good of all. And each of us have a unique set of codes and incarnation intentions and soul contracts that we've made. And part of my work, at the heart of my work these days, is to help people know what that is so that they can enjoy their lives now, so that they stop leaking power, thinking they've got to do everything, and really show up to the bit that is really for them so they can feel good about living a life and it really experience feeling as good on the inside as it perhaps looks on the outside and let themselves evolve and be their true selves.
Yeah. Goodness, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And Ebony and I have connected lots of times before today, and we share this view that life should be experienced, right? And I've been thinking a lot. I was sharing with Ebony before we started recording that I've been watching a lot of TV because I had a bit of time off, which is not my normal. And I was really thinking about how social media has become how we live our life instead of how we share our life. And again, you come at all of your work from the standpoint of, we are human and we are experiencing things. And actually, that's what we're here to do. That experience, we are worthy of having a really good experience and we're worthy of also challenging ourselves for our next level and for growth and all of these things. But it shouldn't come at a cost of who you are or a performative standpoint, you know, that we're just all performing for someone else instead of actually sinking into what is it that I want to experience, or what is it that I am experiencing, and how can I make the most out of my choices? And that's so important. And your journey is so telling of that. And certainly since the time I've known you, you've been through a lot of change as well. So I wonder if you could speak to, you know, how you're experiencing things just now and what that change looks like for you right now.
I think part of what's going on right now is an actual accept it is written into the fabric of my cells and DNA to evolve and change.
Yes.
And part of the performance that I didn't realize I was performing is consistency, where this world sees consistency as surety, and surety and certainty are very exciting to a world that finds the feminine side of things, or chaos, or uncertainty, or death, rebirth, terrifying. And so, if we are that, if we're more feminine, if we are cyclical, or if we're chaos, if we're magic, then for eternity that has been attempted to be controlled. I read yesterday and it like really hit me in the heart. Women create life, so men created God because they couldn't handle not being like women being like the creators, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not a creator, God is the creator. I'm like, and it really hit me of like, we're really taught that, particularly as women from a very early age.
Yeah.
Chaos is not okay. Evolution is like survival of the fittest, which means there are criteria, which means that, you suddenly have to tick boxes and like look externally rather than allowing it to happen organically. So, in answer to your question, I have been evolving for 45 years. And since the time that I've known you, like life, it's kind of getting quicker and faster. I've been working very specifically with embodying my design. I have a core program called Embody Your Design, and I work with human design as the human design is the science of the aura, or the science of differentiation. And so I use it as this is the energetic mechanics of how your energy interacts with the world and each other, how it's designed to work. And then I look at what is the gene keys, or the hexagram, or the I Ching, the oldest book ever written, really. That is also the book of life and the book of changes. And it's got our 64 codes of DNA and of life itself, and talks to the shadow, or the densest frequency, or the seed, the gift, or the bloom, and the city, the highest expression, or the fruit of all of these different codes within us. And we have some of them. We all have all of them, otherwise we wouldn't exist, but we have some of them that are coded into our soul contract for us to work with and mulch and bring light to. And then I work with astrology, and astrology is kind of the where and the when. So, what area of your life and at what time in your life will you be going through these shifts and changes? And so, I bring all of that together in what is really the original language. And so, that's got numerology in it, it's got archetypes in it, it's got sensation and emotion and feelings in it. So, I work with all of that stuff. And since I have been sharing it, I've also gone even deeper into my own journey. And what that looks like is all the places where I was performing, or all the places where
Mhm.
I was going, well, this is how you do business, or this is how you win. This is how you win at business. This is how you win at relationships. This is how you win at being liked. All the places where that was kind of a thing have come up for me and like really in my face and gone, really? Is that true? And that means that my business has evolved. I've moved countries again. I found myself in a situation where the choice that felt good, even though it was scary and terrifying and I couldn't see the long game, was to let go of the dream life of a 4-bedroom penthouse on the beach in Spain, where I spent 5 years, 6 years looking like I was living my perfect life. And I was. And that coming to an end was terrifying,
Yeah.
very scary. And a lot of people around me were like, I'm so excited because whenever this happens to you, so much more comes. And I was like, thanks. It's not exciting right now. I want to poke you in the eyes. But, when I've been through the process, then maybe we could talk about how exciting it is. So you are meeting me at a place where I've been through, again, like another death and rebirth, and really had that kind of dark night of the soul again, and like lost everything I thought was important. again, that made me successful or valuable or gave me a sense of positioning or in all of those things. And in losing all of the success markers or all of the things that we as a society look at each other and go, you're useful, you're successful, you're valuable, I want to have you in my world. When you lose all of them, you can either tell yourself a story where you're a failure, or, and this is the big realization that I have been having again and again and again, I'm still here. None of that stuff's that important. And the asset is me. The asset is not the money in the bank. The asset is not the courses or like what can be extracted from me or what can be given. It's actually in my presence. It's in my humanity. It's in my resilience. It's in my resourcefulness. It's in my creativity. It's in my ability to articulate and communicate. And AI can't take any of that from me. And the banks can't take any of that from me. And the governments can't take any of that from me. And that is actual freedom. So all those people out there telling you, make more money and then you'll be free, that's one version of reality, but it's not mine.
Girl, wow. Thank you for sharing. No, seriously, thank you for sharing that with us. And do you know, we can't, like, I bring the most incredible guests to this podcast. And my whole thing really is amplifying voices like yours that are not the same rinse and repeat. This is what it takes to be successful. This is what success looks like. This is what being happy looks like. This is what being fulfilled looks like. Because we are, again, I think through social media, conditioning women, men too, right? The guys and the kids, right? That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But we're conditioning people into this is what you need to believe, do, be, look like, sound like in order to have happiness, fulfillment, purpose. And that is a lie. Like, that's a lie. And we all have such a different idea and experience of what is joyful, of what is purpose. I know some of my hardest days in business as a mother, whatever, have brought me the most fulfillment and sense of purpose than sitting on a beach would ever do. And I love the beach, but I think we've just, again, got this perception of what we as human beings should be in order to be accepted, liked, valued. And you bring such a different perspective to that. And thank you so much for sharing. And I think we both work in the online space. And so we see a lot of these rinse and repeat versions of what it means to be successful.
I think that's more so now. You know, I started my first online business in 2008. And I remember when I would educate, some careers advice, they really didn't know what to do with me because the internet hadn't been invented yet, right? It's 1995. And when, and I kept saying, I'm going to be location independent, I'm going to draw things and I'm going to have conversations with people and I'm going to help them see the truth and that's what I do, but it wasn't invented yet. And I like to say that now because there are kids, there are people who have kids. I don't know a lot of kids that are very important to me in my life. I am a godmother and an aunt to many. And I have a special kind of love for the innocence and the creativity and the children that are coming. But also it's like every single soul chose to be born at the specific time that it chose to be born. And so, it's really easy as a grown-up or an adult or a parent to look at the children and look at the world and be like, what did I do? And is it gonna be, are they gonna be okay? And where are we headed? And the thing is they have the answers to their exact problems. Like we were created for this time. They are created for that time. And it's all, we don't even know what hasn't been invented yet. And I have that experience of being like, well, I will be, the success for me at that time was location independence. And I have achieved that multiple times. I've lived all over the world. I can operate from anywhere. And then the online business became an industry, became a niche. It wasn't then, right? And what I find really fascinating about that is for me, it's not about being or having an online business. It's about being able to connect with my people. And on the one hand, social media is and AI and technology and all of these things it are overwhelming and show us stuff that overstimulates us and takes us into comparison. And on the other side, they give everyone access. They level out the playing field and mean that anyone can make a movie, anyone can tell a story, anyone can start a business. And so there's this balance piece of we've really got to learn how to align our intention and our attention, how to tune in and tune out, how to be on and how to be off. And so many of us live in that kind of smush in the middle. And it can be so easy to get distracted and pulled into, well, this is what everyone is saying is trending right now or is important right now. And this is how I'm going to capture attention. And I think it's really, really important to turn everything off from time to time. We all know this, but in order to tune into your signature frequency, your signature vibration, and what it is that you actually want to create. Most of us operate from victim orientation. And what I mean by that is not that you're a victim, but that when we operate from the orientation of victim, we see everything as a problem to be solved. What needs to be fixed? What is the problem here? And that's only ever going to create you fixes. But when we change our orientation into what do I want to create? What do I want to experience? And so we're in creator mode rather than problem solving or victim mode, something entirely different emerges. And what we've been marketed over the last 15 years and 7 particularly is you are a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
And the self-help industry has actually made us all problems, and not just that. It's like now our bodies are to be hacked and our mind is to be hacked and our soul is to be hacked, and not just hacked but also fracked, right? Like extracted from. And none of that's true. It's just capitalism. Capitalism is literally create a problem and then sell them the solution. And it's been going on for years, and we don't need anywhere near as much of that stuff. And so I know that the people listening to you that are tuning into this frequency might feel like I need to compete in the world. And the way that I'm going to do that is by recognizing how I solve a problem. And I would say you're not here to solve a problem. You're here to create and express. And when you do so, the correct people will be magnetized to you because they want more of that from a place of joy, not from a place of self-loathing or hatred or not feeling like they're enough.
Yes. Honestly, again, thank you so much for sharing that. And certainly my listeners here, it is really difficult. And I'm not taken away from that. Like, it is really difficult to tune out. I think, especially when, as you mentioned, the world seems so scary right now. And it's so difficult to tune out of scarcity, fear, pressure, stress, all of these things. But actually, once you do, so much within you changes. And I think allows you to step back from the problems that you think you're experiencing right now and actually see them as opportunity and actually see them as a moment of, okay, well, what is it? What is this actually telling me about myself that needs to change? And how do I move forward in a way that is actually aligned? And you don't need, and I say this all the time, you do not need a guru to tell you what to do with your life. You do not need another course. You do not need another qualification. So much of the opportunity that will come into your life, the joy that will come into your life, the people that will come into your life will come to you through simply expressing. And this is why I love social media, podcasting, Substack, all the places where I choose to create, because I get the most gorgeous souls, the most gorgeous souls. I've met the most incredible women. But it wasn't because I had a 5-step plan to get your visibility on track. In fact, if I did, I'd probably have more money, right? Because nobody wants that, like, oh no, let's like actually tune into your authentic voice and I'll, help you actually unlock that part of you that never knows what to say because you do know what to say. And that's actually the hard sell, right? Like that is the hard sell. But that's why I love it, because actually when you do start to express and you start to find that part of yourself that knows what to say and trusts yourself to say it, God, the world opens up.
And like everyone wants a quick fix because
Yeah.
it's addictive.
It is addictive, for sure.
Sugar is addictive. Dopamine is addictive. Quick fix is addictive, right? Like, and so we think that's the thing, but it's not. None of those things give you sustainable energy.
No.
None of them give you nutrients. Actually, what they do is they leach nutrients from your body. And so when we then actually make something ourselves, or, the difference between our random example for you, like a cordial that you might buy in a shop, elderflower cordial or squash or, something like that, full of sugar, but very easy. It makes the water, you need to drink water. You struggle with it if you're anything like me. You go cordial. I'm going to buy that in a shop, put it in a glass. That's going to help me, right? It's a quick fix to getting more water in you. The longer version is that you could go for a walk and you could pick some elderflower flowers that are available at this time of year naturally in the world, and you could take them home and you could soak them in water and you could go through the process of creating your own floral infusion and adding just the right amount of sugar and citric acid, and you could have this thing that you then made, and then when you drank it, instead of just like getting it down your neck and then carrying on with the next thing, you might be like, I remember like picking the things, and I remember the sun where it was, and I remember the song on the radio that was playing when I made the thing or I put the muslin over it, and that then connects you in with source and with essence and with pleasure. And the difference is, one requires slowing down and being present and dropping in and enjoying what actually exists in your life. And the other one is a quick fix or solving a problem or just hurrying up or, right?
And you've illustrated that perfectly, right? Because we've been sold the solution. Here's a cordial to drink more water. And therefore, it is the easy path and the path of less resistance to just do that and to automate. I think this is a huge thing that I'm thinking about an awful lot just now is how much we had Lou, who's like a behavioral change expert on recently. Habits make or break us, right? Like those things you have on automation can make everything work for you, or they can make everything awful, right? Our habits, our patterns, and all these things. And I've been thinking a lot recently about what do I automate that actually ought not to be automated?
Yes. Okay.
What are those things that I have for ease, for necessity? I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm a single mom, I've got 3 kids, I've got a business. Like, girl, it's a lot sometimes. But what are those things in my life that I have not consciously been aware that I've automated
Yeah.
that have taken me out of my experience and into hustle mode, into problem solving mode, into how much money can I make? How many people can I speak to? How many, these metrics that we put around success, and how much of this actually do I get to drop back and choose less automation, making the cordial, to use your example.
I love what you've just shared, and you've segued me back so beautifully into what I actually wanted to talk about that I'd forgotten that I wanted to talk about and share. And I'm going to try and keep it concise, but I want to put these things in. There are 2 big lies or 2 big things that I took on in my many, many years in the personal development space. I've been doing this. My dad did it before me even. So I've been in the personal development space and the well-being and the helping people industry, if you like, for 45 years. And I've been doing it as his assistant for 26 years. And I've been doing it myself with my own clients for 15. I went to a big seminar years and years ago where they got me to write down, got us all to write down how much money we wanted to make in a year. And at that point, I was one of those people who found it difficult just to, it was like some, right? Like enough. I just want like, and I couldn't write down the big number. And they made us write down a number, and I wrote down a number. And then he said, if you have written anything less than 100,000, you are selfish. And selfish is my big, like, I will be anything but that.
Yeah.
And so little did I know that that experience like set me on a trajectory for more than enough.
Yeah.
And actually, when I dig in deeper, and my first word was more, over the years of kind of working around, what is enough? I've always heard enough as not enough. And I have spent most of my life being overweight and having real issues with fullness.
Mm.
Satiation.
Mhm.
I'm one of those people, now we have everyone selling us Ghrelin and GPL. This is how you will get satiated. This is how you will get enough, right? But the truth is like underneath it, it's like, what are you hungry for?
Yeah.
And for me, for the longest time, and also I'm a manifesting generator, so the signature is satisfied. For the longest time, like nothing was satisfying. And I even heard the words enough to mean, well, you've clearly let everyone down because what you should be delivering is over and above.
Yeah.
what is enough? Well, there's never going to be enough. And what I didn't realize for a million years is that I was operating on not enough. Nothing will ever be enough. Nothing will
Yeah.
ever satiate me. I always want more. And you hear people talk about poverty mindset and you hear people talk about scarcity. But if you're someone who's operating from a deep not enough wound, you don't think of yourself, and I'll own it. I did not think of myself as operating from poverty mindset. I didn't think of myself as operating from scarcity. I saw myself as someone who was generous and wanted to make a bigger impact. So I needed to always be offering more, doing more, showing up more. That is not me operating from scarcity. That is me being generous. But when there is no definition of enough,
Yeah.
can't ever rest, you can't ever stop, you're never satiated, you never feel like you're good enough, you never acknowledge what you have already achieved. And I went and heard someone speak recently and I got really triggered by their talk, and it hasn't I don't get triggered anymore, right? And when it does, and anytime it does happen, triggering is amazing, because where we have a trigger is an invitation to explore deeper, and there's an opportunity for a crack and light to get in, and something to be discovered that wasn't discovered. And so when I was listening to this woman talk and she was sharing her story of all the amazing things that she had done, it's like, why is this irritating me so much?
Yeah.
And it was because I'd done all of those things, but I didn't count them as things that were enough to even bother sharing.
Ah, how interesting.
And so, and then I started to see this pattern, right? I lived for a little while with a personal trainer. And I would always be like, oh, another day I've failed. I've done no exercise today. And he'd be like, but I saw you go for a walk. How many steps did you get in? I'd be like, 10,000. But he'd be like, but what? I was like, yeah, but that's not enough. I wanted to do 20. Or maybe I only did 5 or 3. And I'd be like, but that doesn't count because it was only blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, "But you went for a swim." I was like, "Oh, that was for fun. That doesn't count." And he'd be like,
Yeah.
I just see you do some yoga or a stretch?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, but it wasn't a workout. I didn't sweat." Right. And so, like, everything doesn't count. And if everything doesn't count and nothing's ever enough, then you're never going to feel satiated. You're never going to feel like I'm the fucking bomb. You're always going to feel like I'm not there yet. And so the big realization for me was like, okay, what if I don't want more? What if and I used to say to all of my clients, saying no, because I don't like to say no, right? I want to say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
Saying no to one thing is saying yes to something else. And so at the moment, I'm going through this thing in my business, which is absolutely terrifying, where I'm going to get rid of 90% of my offers, and I'm going to choose to only work with 12 people and to charge them an amount that feels really good for me for that offer. I was like, well, but what about all the people I can't help? And
Yeah.
that's the bit that I've been really meeting. And it's like, well, why am I doing this? What will saying this is enough create more of?
Yes.
What am I saying no to so that I can say yes to something else? And I'm saying no to coaching and mentoring and consulting and facilitating and holding space for individuals so that I can hold more space for myself, so that I can
Mhm.
make more art, so that I can write more books, so that I can go on more journeys and have more stories to share the wisdom from in a way that feels really good for me. And I'm really, really excited about it. And it's still really edgy. What about all those people I can't help or I don't have capacity for? I don't really want to. And that's the bit where it's like, well, there's the selfishness. There are plenty of other people that they can go to. There are so many people that want to work with people at that level. And actually, I know tons of them. I know really good people. And so I will just refer them because there's plenty, because there's enough. And
Yes.
this gets to be a new level and a new way of me demonstrating generosity, not by me giving more of me, but by me giving recommendations to all of these other people.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you again just for sharing so openly with us on this beautiful stage of your own journey, and such a contrast, I think, to what so many of us are hearing at the moment, charge more, get more people in, do more high ticket, more, 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 more.
That piece for me really stopped me in my tracks. So that the 100K, right, of like, if you're not making that yourself, like you must scale, because if you're not scaling, if you haven't got a group program, if you're not making something that you can make more and more and more, then you're not making enough of an impact. And if you're not making enough of an impact, then clearly you don't value yourself or think your work is great. I value myself and I know my work is great. But what happens when I focus on scaling is I dilute what I have. And actually, what I've worked out over years of meeting myself badly and feeling like I'm failing is when I work with a smaller group of people on helping them know and feel really good about who they are and what they're designed for and all of those things, then they can go out and they can have a group of people, and then they can go out and they can have a group of people, and
Yes.
then they can candles don't put each other out by lighting one another, and my job is to light candles or to light really potent luminaries, and I'm a luminary, and that is like, oh, I'm a leading light. I'm not a leading lifter or a leading doer or right. I'm a light, not a something else. And that has really shifted my own perception of where I'm at and where I'm going. And ultimately, my job in the world as a luminary is I'm a perception shifter. And for a lot of your people listening, like what gets to change is not who you are, but how you see yourself and how
Yes.
you see what it is that you have to offer. Because as soon as you shift your perception by like 3 to 5 degrees, everything changes. It's the difference between opening a lock and not. Is like sometimes it's so subtle and we're so focused on the big work and the big changes that we often forget that it's those subtle ones that make all the difference.
They've certainly been the most interesting and transformational times of my own life have been, and I've had the big things, right? Like I left my relationship of 12 years. Like I blew up my life with my 3 kids and left. And these were big moments, but, and likely you'll be the same. When I look back, actually, sometimes it was the tiniest little things that really amplified my impact or my motherhood journey or any of the things that I experienced in my own life. It was the most subtle moments. It was a line in a book. It was a conversation with a random stranger on a train. It was, as you know, to bring it back to your earlier point, those really subtle moments when you are living your lived experience and you're really there and you're really present.
I think what I love about the work that you do is that it's not about finding your voice or changing your voice or amplifying your voice. It's such a subtle piece. Like often it's about hearing your voice reflected back to you or having someone say, this is something that you say all the time and it's really been a big deal for me. And we don't even notice the stuff that has the greatest impact sometimes because we're moving too fast, thinking that what we have to say isn't enough or isn't whatever. And what I love about the way that you work and that real kind of slowing down, listening, reflecting, coaching, assisting people in seeing themselves is that they don't need to be like no one listening to this has to be anyone different. There isn't a particular way that your voice needs to sound. It's not about like mastering your message or positioning yourself as authority. Like all of those things will happen when you find yourself at home and trust that you, exactly as you are, is enough.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. No, it's true. You're so right. And I think that's why we're so well aligned, you know? And I think each and every woman, each of my clients, everyone listening, all of your community as well, everyone,
Yeah.
once you trust yourself, you will see that so much of the noise that is going on, so much of what you're taught about marketing, so much of the things that are perpetuated in the patriarchal society that we live in are designed to sell you something, not to get you what you want out of life.
And when you trust yourself and switch off,
Yeah.
the only reason we are on all the time is a state of hypervigilance thing.
Yeah.
The person I'm living with at the moment went to work the other day, and just as he was walking out the door, he'd left his phone. And he was like, oh, my phone. He was like, oh, shame, that would have been a really great day. And I was like, well, why are you taking it? Right? Like, you can leave your phone. I forgot my home. You could leave it at home and have forgotten it, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
really want a day without it, just forget it and go and like have your day. And he was like, but it'll be the one day that something happens and someone needs to get hold of me. And it's that thing of like, we live in this constant state of we must be on all the time. We must be contactable at all time. And if we're not, someone will worry about us. And all of that is from a place of scarcity and hypervigilance. And ultimately, it's also really narcissistic. Bear with me on this. What if they can't contact me? That implies that you're the only person
Yeah.
that they might need. Ultimately, what if they can't contact you? They'll try someone else. And what if you weren't the most important person in their life at the moment when something doesn't work? Well, 'Cause it's not all about you. Sometimes I just like to play with that, right? Like,
I
I
love that
really
though.
do want yeah.
I think that's a really interesting perspective. I was sharing with Ebony before we recorded again that I have taken a few days off, and I maybe 4 weeks ago turned off my Instagram notifications. I do not get notifications for Instagram messages. Do you know how liberating that has been? Right? Not even just, even beyond last week when I took a few days off. I know there are messages there. Obviously, I'm in touch with all my clients and everyone that I've got meetings with and all these. Actually, to be fair, bless Ebony, I did forget to send her email, but
But, even that, it doesn't matter. I don't like
it's not the end of
email.
the world, right?
Would have just sat in there to me. It's like I'm on a live with someone later, and whenever she emails me a calendar link, it doesn't come into my email. She's like, "Have you got it this time?" I'm like, "No."
No,
I know where I'm gonna be. I know when I'm gonna be there. I don't
100%.
need all of the notification.
100%. Ebony, this is the thing though, right? I trust myself to get us both on a meeting and record.
And I also trust myself to ask. It's
Right?
not, but if I hadn't got anything
Yeah, you'd be like, girl,
or
we're on in
um,
10.
are we still doing it? It's not a big deal, and then you don't have to go into a shame spiral of like, "Oh, I didn't send it," and like, it was no
100%.
big deal. I just asked, and you sent me a
100%.
thing.
And it's so, I did that. I turned those notifications
Yeah.
off because I started feeling an intense urgency around replying to everyone. And then I started to get really panicky. And I thought, why am I doing this to myself? Like, that is the moment, isn't it? That's the, like you were saying, you feel that trigger and you think, okay, what is this about? This is about me feeling like I have to be switched on to Instagram all the time. Is that a fact or a perception? Because the fact is, I don't need to be switched on to Instagram all the time to run my business, to make money, to do all my things. So that's a perception. That's something that I've taken on that does not need to be there. And so I switched notifications off. And oh, honestly, liberating.
I'm so glad that you did it. I'm so glad. I was at a really amazing event with, I mean, I'll just say it. I think it was the beginning of last year. Was at an event, Susie Ashwell's, and her events are amazing. And it was a big thing in London. And I was there with one of my besties, and she took us through this guided meditation. It's like, what was the one thing that you need to do in order to be more fully resourced and kind of grow your capacity? And the thing that came through in the meditation is I need one day a week where I switch everything off and I'm not available to
Yes.
anyone. And I'm gonna give that to myself, right? And then we got to share it with someone, and I got to share it with the friend who I was with, and her instant response, completely automatic, was the exact response I expected that I would get from the larger world. So it's almost like I could deal with the shadow or the negative, like, almost immediately. So I told her what I wanted. She was like, "Oh, but I would really miss you." And I was like, "I know, but I'm not here for everybody. Oh, I feel guilty already." It was like, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, no, it's fine for me to miss you. And I was like, actually, it'd be really good for people to miss me. I'm too available. Yes, I'm too available. And so it started a thing. And I think there's just, we have the truth in there. And the response, the fear is perfect and is part of the process. And for me, it's like there is no shadow. Like, shadow is not bad. It's not something we want to get rid of. There is no good and bad. It's to be integrated and to be explored, right? And success, like you said earlier, some of my greatest successes and one of the biggest issues I see in the world right now is that when everything is too easy,
Mm.
earn it, you didn't fail, then you haven't got any grit and you don't believe in yourself. And, I got my first job. I wanted a pair of shoes, like 14, and my dad was like, "There's just no way. Like, this is not my job. My job is not, I do not have to buy you those shoes. I have to keep you, fed and clothed. I do not have to buy you 7-inch heels. Nothing in the parental contract says that. And so if you want them, I'm not stopping you from having them, but you go get your own funds to secure those shoes." And so I was 14 when I went and got my first job. And, I failed at stuff and I disappointed people and I let people down and I dealt with that. And it means that by the time you're a young adult in the world, you've dealt with rejection, you've dealt with disappointment, you've
Yeah,
had some failures. And I think people are robbing our children and the next generation of fuck ups, of making mistakes, of getting it
100%.
wrong, of dealing with the fear of rejection, because there is nothing to get wrong other than, when we remove all the dirt, like, germs are dangerous. When we remove all the germs,
Yeah.
then you can't build an immune system.
You're so right though. And I'm obviously like, my oldest daughter's 12 this year. She's going to high school after summer, which is terrifying. It's terrifying, but at the same time, she's so ready and she's been facing a lot of challenges recently. And something that, I mean, obviously I'm trained in this. I work with my clients on emotional regulation and on all these things. And we've somehow as a society, and this is not just a recent thing, this is not just the rise of personal development and all this online. Like this is us as a society for a long time, is that especially British people, right? Like emotion is either a good thing if it looks a certain way, or it's a negative thing. And my daughter had faced something at school and she'd worked so hard for this audition, for this production. She came in, she exploded into tears. She was hysterical, so we go through the process and eventually she's calm. She tells me what happened. She goes, I accidentally cried at school. And I said, you didn't accidentally cry. I said, you were so disappointed. You worked so hard for that. The disappointment is okay. That's normal. That's understandable. That is an emotion that you experienced and you don't have to apologize for being upset at school for something that you were experiencing. But even at her young age, with me as her mother, right? She still has that inherent thing of that emotion is negative, not to be shared, not to be shown, not to be remembered by those around me. And I think this is a big thing, right? We feel like everyone.
When we express, it's for the impact, like it's for the greatest good, it's for each other, right? We have an impact on each other. Suffering brings softness.
Yeah.
When we see someone cry, we remember that people are sensitive and they have feelings. And that's being eradicated, and that it hurts my heart. And again, coming to that first parents' evening, my dad was told, and I think I must have been like 3, she's too sensitive, she needs to toughen up.
Oh,
And he was like, but somewhere I heard that, I took that on, and I became incredibly tough to the point, for the last 8, 9 years, I've been de-armoring, right? Because I wore so much armor.
yeah.
And there's again the whole, I'm not saying that was wrong either, right? Like this built my range, and now I can be armored up and I can take care of myself in tough situations, and I don't walk down the alleyways, and I also know that I can. And no one's going to come anywhere near me because I've got like really great fuck off vibes. And it's like we get to master all of this. I've
For
also
sure.
really, I can be very soft and incredibly open. The beautiful thing is balancing, letting it flow, and being in command when it's an inappropriate situation, and yeah. Anyway, we could talk forever and we should probably not.
I know. Well, maybe we should. No, honestly, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been just so gorgeous, and these conversations are so important. And, this podcast is about amplifying the voices of women who are not going, who are going against the grain and really giving a platform to women who are sharing their journey and sharing the things that, like you shared today, this is you figuring out in this season of your life, like what is enough? Like, what do I want? What is this part of me that needs fulfilled right now? And how does that look? And how do I shift and change into what I need now and who I am now? So thank you so much for coming on. I'd love you to share where everyone can find you. And of course, we'll link everything in the show notes as well.
So it is all about to shift and change, but what will stay the same is that my main online home is ebonieallard.com, which is my name. It's with an IE rather than a Y. So ebonieallard.com is where my main online home is. And from there, you'll be able to link out into all of those other things. Of all of the social media places, I'm on most of them, but the one I actually am on day to day is Instagram. I love a conversation in the DMs. I love a little voice note. So please pop in. I love engagement. I try and ask things in my stories, and sometimes I go through phases of like not wanting to put out anything on the grid, but I'm always in stories. And so, yeah, come and hang out and play. Those are the 2 main places. On Substack, I share a podcast, which is Becoming Full of Yourself. And I will share here because it feels nice to say it out loud, even though it hasn't happened at the time we're recording this. The process that I'm going through and what will be coming is a split of my work into Kismet, Compass, and Keepsake. And so Kismet is your charts and reading reports around your own Kismet codes and what that looks like for you. Compass is the offers that I have that really help you ground it and connecting with your own sovereignty and be your own GPS and compass system, right? And really embody everything. And that's the live work piece. And then Keepsake is where my books, my art, my decks, all of the beautiful things that I have created, like this deck that I just happen to have here with the Kismet codes on, all of the things that I create, and going forward, more keepsakes that act as little totems for you to remember who you are and what it is that you're working with. They will exist in there. And it feels really beautiful to move away from the coaching and consultancy piece, the compass piece being the main thing, but really amplifying it into having space for all three parts.
That's so joyful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us genuinely. And I know I speak for everyone when I say we can't wait to see what's coming next for you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. And we shall see you all in the next one. Bye.